Hey guys, welcome to my channel and welcome to another video. And today I thought we could do a video about ranking all my green palettes or green eyeshadows in my collection because green is my favorite color for everything and especially eyeshadows. And a couple of weeks ago I saw another creator, I can't remember the name, to make a similar video where she kind of talked about all the palettes that have the color of her choosing and kind of why she likes it, why she doesn't like it. I don't know if there was also a ranking, but it just kind of inspired me to make this video, so I pulled out all the palettes in my collection that have green eyeshadows. At least more than two, because at least two or more, because otherwise this video would be too long. And I thought we could rank them and I could tell you a little bit about what I like about them, what I don't like about them. And I'm not gonna swatch everything, just kind of the most exciting eyeshadows, or like the ones that I like the most from the palettes. So without further ado, let's just get into it and let's get started. Okay, so we're gonna go from the bottom to top. And on the bottom I have this Winnie the Pooh in collaboration with Colourpop. It's the Sweet as Can Be eyeshadow palette. And this palette is extremely pretty and cute, but it has only two green shades, which are these shimmers. The rest is all like neutral or pink, and I just expected, when I was buying it, I expected it to be a little bit more green than it is. And the two greens that are here, the two shimmers, they're pretty, but not something that I would write home about. It's just, I don't love Colourpop shimmers all that much. I think they're pretty, but a little bit too neutral for me. Like, they're not really all that sparkly, and they're more like, they lean a little bit more satin than I would want. So, especially these two. So, she's on the bottom. Then another palette is the Game Beauty Adventure palette. This one is beautiful, like the packaging and everything. It's absolutely beautiful, and it's a very like small, sleek palette that I really like. And it has a lot of greens, but this palette isn't the most pigmented palette that I have. It's better for more softer looks. I really like this matte green shade that's called EXP, or like Experience. It's kind of yellow based green, kind of like a grassy green. This one is really beautiful. This one is really beautiful, and it actually shows up really nicely on the skin. And it's a very beautiful green. It's my favorite type of green. The shimmers kind of remind me more of Colourpop. They're not as sparkly and they're more like satiny. So I would usually have to top that with something more sparkly. It has one glitter here. That's obviously very sparkly and shiny. I don't really like wearing glitters, but this one's not that bad. It's just not my preferred type of eyeshadow. So that's this palette. Then I have this small palette from Shall We Makeup. This is the Liana palette. And I think it's a very cute palette. It only has 4 shades, but it has one green matte, which is very, very pretty. Then one like shimmer green that's kind of like really deep green with like gold speckles in it. And then it has this shade that's called In Flames that goes from red to orange to yellow to like this really yellowy green. I'm gonna try to show you in the reflection. Maybe I'm gonna be able to do that. You can see like the yellow, and then it turns into this like really like yellowy based green. I think you can see it now a little bit. And that one is very pretty. Usually when I use this shade on my eyes, it only shows the like reddish orange there, but sometimes I feel like maybe you can slightly see the green a little bit when I'm moving my hand. It's a very like stunning shade, very fun shade. And yeah, I like it sometimes when you can see like the yellowy green in that. That's a very, very fun shade. But it's a small palette and it doesn't really have that much. I like these types of greens as well, like these more kind of grayish greens. I feel like they really accentuate my eye color, so love this one. And it's a very small palette and it's beautiful. Then next palette is the Legend of Korra palette from Colourpop. This one has couple greens. Don't mind this one because this one is from the Tinkerbell palette. I just kind of moved it around. So it has these two beautiful matte shades which are like so stunning. I love this pistachio green. It's like such a beautiful color. I don't know if you will be able to see anything. Yeah, slightly. It's a very nice color and I like to blend my eyeshadows with this. Or like kind of, you know, clean the look with this. And I love these deep greens. They're very pretty for the outer corner, and I love and I quite enjoyed this shade Endgame, which is pretty sparkly for Colourpop, and it's kind of like champagne green, very, very light pastel-y shimmer green. This one is very, very cute and I quite enjoy it. And as you can see, it has a little bit of, it kind of looks wet on the eyes, which I really like. Colourpop shimmers, they are pretty smooth. They are pretty smooth on the eyes, but I just would wish if they were sparklier and more metallic. But overall, I like this palette. Just the greens are. If I go for this palette, I usually use more the blues in here than the greens, just because I have better greens in my collection, but they're still quite pretty and I still use them, just not as much. Then we have the Giant Wolves palette from Oden's Eye in collaboration with Annette Oberstadt. And it's mostly like pink, it's mostly blue and purple palette, but it has some greens in here, like this little corner here. And I really, really love these greens. I love these more like army greens with these really dark greens. This is more like a, this shimmer is very pretty. It's like a goldy green color. I love how this looks on the eyes. It's so shimmery, so metallic. And it has a very nice undertone. Like, I don't think I actually have color like this in my collection, because from one side it looks golden green, which is normal, but then you move it and it's kind of more like minty green. I don't know if it will be if you will be able to see it on camera, but it's kind of like darker version of this Colourpop color, and I really like that. It's definitely a unique shade in my collection, and I have to use this palette a little bit more because I just love this shade. And I love this shade Astral with it. because it's like white with gold and green speckles in it, and I think these two just look absolutely beautiful together, so I needed to show you that. Anyways, then we're gonna go for this Scooby-Doo palette from Glamlight, and this palette is pretty big. It has some green shades. It has this green row and then like these more like turquoisey colors. I like the greens here. I like the matte greens here a lot. They're very pretty. I love that you have more like pastel-y, like grassy green, than this more like army green, and then like a really deep green. That's kind of the most these three types of shades, or like these three colors, are my most used eyeshadows, whether it's in this palette or in other palettes. It's just kind of the exact color story that I go for when I want green eyeshadow. And then I really like this shimmer shade. Because it's just so sparkly and just so beautiful. I really like this one. It's kind of more... It's really sparkly. It has like golden speckles in it and like a little bit of blue speckles in it as well. It's very pretty on the eyes, and it's just such a nice like undertone. And this is really nice color story that we have here on the hand. So yeah, quite like it. Obviously, since it's only one row of greens, I can't rank it higher, but I do quite enjoy these. I wouldn't mind if the shimmers were a little bit more sparklier, but it's still pretty nice, and I love the mattes. I really do. They're definitely really great. I didn't use them as much lately, or like this palette in general, because I don't really like big palettes, but I needed to have this one because I love Scooby-Doo. So, and I think the green really matches Shaggy very well. So that one. Then I have the Lore palette from Unearthly Cosmetics. I have the bigger version. I think they reformulated it or like repackaged it into like smaller palette. I have the big one, and this only has green shimmers kind of. It has this Medusa shade, which is absolutely beautiful. I really like this. It's again kind of like goldy green. It's probably really similar to the Giant Wolf's shade. This one is just a little bit more cooler toned, and it also has this shade Serpent, which is multichrome, and it goes from pink to champagne to kind of like a greenish color. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to show you the green in there. Maybe you can see it. It is like a pink to champagne to like really light green, so which is great because you can use it with all of these colors, obviously, as an inner corner highlight. And I like Unearthly's formula. I think the shimmers are just so smooth looking on the eyes, but they're still pretty shimmery. As you can see, like next to the Glamlight, it doesn't seem that shimmery, but it looks very pretty on the eyes, and they last all day on the eyes. So, and then there's also this Basilisk shade. I would say that this is more like it's like turquoisey color, so I don't know if you would put that with blues or greens. I feel like this looks more blue than green, at least to me. I think I see more blue there than green, but that's up for you to decide. I don't really love these like turquoisey colors all that much, and I don't wear them that often unless I pair them with something else. So I usually pair this one either with the pink color or with the green shimmer, because I don't really like these colors all that much, but so you can decide whether it's green or blue. And then I have the Sprinkle a Little Magic from Colourpop and Tinkerbell. Mine is a little bit different because I have this Terramon shade here and this Nomad Cosmetics shade here, but otherwise all of these shades are from the original Tinkerbell palette. And I like this palette a little bit more than the Winnie the Pooh because we have shimmers and mattes here. I love these mattes. You can see that they're very similar to the previous palettes, especially like the Cora palette or the Scooby-Doo palette. I just love these colors. I like a really deep green, and then these more like pistachio or more these more pastel-y greens. I just like that, and I like these two shimmers here, the Small Fairy and the Pixie Dust, because they're quite sparkly actually. I think these are the most sparkliest shades from Colourpop that I have. And they're both kind of like goldy green again. Can you tell that that's my favorite green shimmer? But yeah, you can see these are pretty sparkly, pretty metallic, and I really like those. Those look amazing on the eyes, and I actually really like them. So usually when I use Colourpop green shades, I would go for these two shimmers because they're just so pretty, and seriously, on the eyes it's beautiful. So this is definitely my favorite green from formula from Colourpop. Absolutely stunning. Then the next palette is another 9 pan palette, this time from Shroud Cosmetics, and this is the Moonfall palette. It's beautiful. It has these more like jewel toned shades, and it has 2 greens. So I love this matte, the Moon Moss. Again, like I just love these kind of more grungy greens. And then it has this shade, which I guess a lot of people would say is green. It's like another turquoisey shade. I don't really like turquoises that much, but that one's here too. And it's a nice formula. The mattes from Shroud Cosmetics, I really like them, as well as the shimmers. I think they have really nice formula that's easy to work with, that lasts all day, and it's just a pleasure to use. And I love the shade Artifact. It's just, oh my god, this is just such a beautiful shade. It has more of a darker base than the other ones, and it's so beautiful. It looks amazing on the eyes. I did experience a bit of creasing with this shade one time that I wore it, but it could have just been the eye prep. I don't really know. I have to try it one more time with different like base to see if it's the eyeshadow or the base. But I like it, and I actually kind of want to use it with the Tinkerbell palette now that I'm looking at this. This is really pretty together. So yeah, I love the Moonfall palette, and then I also have the Hollow Bean palette with Betty Bean, or like in collaboration with Betty Bean. So again, absolutely beautiful. It's Showtime. I could have this shade 70 times over in every single palette, and I would still be like, this is the most beautiful shade I've ever seen. I know they're all very similar, but like I love this. This is my my go-to. Again, with this more like deep forest green or like mossy green. So I love these two together. And I love the inner corner highlight here, the shade Ghoulish, because it's like white based inner corner highlight that has kind of like green and gold speckles in it. Again, like it's very similar to the one in the Giant Wolves collection, but this one I think goes a little bit more like minty green, and this one goes more like, it has more like just speckles of green and gold, whereas this one actually like you can see the mint more in there, I hope, at least. So yeah, it's actually kind of similar to this one in the Legend of Korra palette, just this is a little bit more iridescent and just brighter, and it has more like lighter base to it. But yeah, it's very stunning, and I just love it as an inner corner highlight. And then there's also this shade Black Flame, which I don't know if I will be able to show you. Hopefully you can see it, that it's like from deep purple to green. I think you can see it here, that it's kind of greeny. So this one is a multi-chrome and I really like it. I think especially for Halloween this is just such a beautiful shade to use. Then I have the Spooked palette from Gourmand Girls and Doodles by the Bunny. I hopefully soon will have the Nightshade palette to accompany this, so I can't wait for that. But anyways, this has a really pretty, more like neutral greens. It has this like olive green here as a matte. Then it has this shade Drake, which is kind of like a brown to green duochrome, and then it has this shade Apple Bob, which is just a very like neony, like kind of like poisonous green, which are also my favorite. So you can see this is just such a stunning shade and such a fun shade as well. I really like colors like this. And then you have the shade Spirit, which it's kind of like, it looks like a light beigey shimmer, but it has a little bit of green in it. It's again like duochrome, and from some angles you can see a little bit of green in this one. So this one is pretty nice as like a inner corner highlight when you're using the greens. So yeah, quite like this one. I really like the shade Apple Bob because it's a little bit of like a different shade that I don't really have in my collection elsewhere. At least I don't think I do, so it's kind of more like a unique shade, and I love this palette so much. Then I have the Flower Moon palette from Ensley Rain Cosmetics. So when it comes to the mattes, I've already said it in my review for this palette. This has 3 green mattes, and they're either the same or very similar in the color. This one might be a little bit brighter than these two, but these two I genuinely can't see difference between them. So yeah, that's for the mattes, but I like working with the mattes. They're just like, they're the same. And then there's a bunch of green shimmers or like duochromes. So I think my favorite here is probably the shade Sapling, because it's very different from all my other palettes. It's like cool toned green that goes to blue. I hope you can see that. And then I really like the shade Awakening. These shades are so like soft, and they look very like wet on the eyes. I love these shades. They're so pretty. If you don't like chunky, like more glittery shimmers, I think you're gonna like these because they're just very soft on the eyes. Very kind of, they're more wet looking than metallic, and they're just such a pleasure to work with. I really like how it looks on the eyes. The only maybe like complaint a little bit, I've been wearing this palette quite a lot lately, and I think I like the way they perform and I love how they look like, but for me I have to pat them into place after like 8 hours because they start to move on me and they start to kind of like, they start to crease on me. So that's the only complaint, but I have hooded eyes, hooded eyelids, and they're quite oily, so that should also be taken into consideration. But yeah, I love this palette. It's beautiful, and I think for the like season that it was released in, it's perfect. Like for summer and spring, this is just a perfect palette that will look absolutely stunning. Then I have the Earth palette from Oden's Eye. If I ever needed like a travel palette to take with me, this is the travel palette I would take, because it has as you can probably see, it has my favorite greens in it. It's pretty much all green palette, so it has this like light pistachio green that I just love. Then this more like grungy kind of, I don't know, swampy green. And then this shade is kind of like dark brown with a little bit of purple in it, but it looks really nice with these two. Then this shimmer is just like a really deep green with gold speckles in it. It's very similar to the one with the in the Shelby makeup palette. And then this inner corner highlight, it's like white with gold and green in it. It's very similar to the one from the Jan Wolf's palette, and it just looks so pretty when you pair these shades together. So if I ever need like a quick green look or something to take with me, I always go for this palette. It's small, it's beautiful, and I can do the entire look with it. And yeah, this is like, if I ever would buy a mini palette from now on, it would have to be something like this. I would have to be able to create one whole look with it, and it would have to be something that I know I absolutely love to wear, and I can never get enough of these colors. So yeah, love, love, love. And then it's time for the top three. So on the third place, I have the Merry Christmas palette from Oden's Eye. This is the palette that they released last year, or like the last Christmas. And as you can see, it is quite used. I have pan in this shade and of course in this shade. So I pretty much only use this palette for the greens, sometimes for these like oranges and pinks, but mostly greens. I just love the variety. You have warm tone greens, cool tone greens, and they just all look so beautiful together. I love the shade Jingle Bell. It's just such a gorgeous shade of green. Again, it has a lot of like gold in it, but you already know that I love it. And then this shade, the Elf Wish, this is like multi-chrome, and it goes for like from like yellow, orange to light green. I think you can see that, hopefully. But yeah, love this as an inner corner highlight. And these multi-chromes are also extremely like soft, sparkly, wet looking. And then the shade Snowman, it's like a white based inner corner highlight that has a little bit of green in it as well. So love that one. And when it comes to the mattes, like the shade Best Wish and the shade Matcha Cookies, I can't get enough of these. They're just so pretty. I'm sorry, my hands are dirty, but they're so, so pretty. And I love this. This is just such a perfect combo, and I've worn it so much. Like, I mean, I have pants there, so I've worn it so much. Not just around Christmas, but also just like all year round. I always go for this. But I only pretty much go for the greens in this palette. I don't really like the rest. So yeah, if this was like an 8-pan palette just with the greens, oh my god, I would never shut up about it. Because I always feel kind of guilty to only use this palette for the greens and never like touch the other shades. But the greens are just so superior in this palette, so I love that. Then place number 2 is the Serpent palette from Makeup Beauty Shop in collaboration with Martha's Makeup. Love this. Absolutely, absolutely love this. Let me open it. It has such a beautiful greens. From mattes, it pretty much only has this green. This is more like a olive green, kind of like a muted neutral green, and it has like yellows. But the greens here, the shade Venom, is just such a beautiful like yellow based green shade that's so, so sparkly. I mean, you can see how extremely reflective and wet looking this is. It looks like a liquid on your eyes, and it's beautiful, beautiful. Then the shade Duality, it goes from like a purpley brown to green. I don't think you're gonna be able to see the green here. Oh wait, let me swatch it. Maybe you will see it a little bit, I don't know. But yeah, it has like green in it, so if you pair it with this shade, it just looks beautiful. And I love these two. And then also this shade Antidote. It's like a really deep khaki green. This one is more like satiny than sparkly, but again, it looks really great with the shade Venom. So that's for this one. Love it. If you can get your hands on this, definitely recommend. This is a French brand. I think they had another pre-order for this, so I think you can still get it. And yeah, it's probably my favorite palette that was released this year. Would recommend. And then the ultimate green palette is the Hela palette from Oden's Eye and Angelica Nyquist. This is palette that was released last spring, I think. I believe it was spring. And look at this green heaven. I absolutely love the shade Rebirth because it's like a pastel yellowy based green shade. Oh gosh, where should I put it? Here. It's beautiful with these greens, especially for like summer or spring looks. I just feel like it really ties it together and makes it extremely cute and spring and summer appropriate. Then the shade Fluorescence, it's very similar to the shade Venom from the Serpent palette. This one is a little bit more metallic rather than wet looking. But yeah, it's absolutely beautiful, and you can see they're extremely similar. It's like a yellow based green. Then the shade Venom in the Hela palette, it's like such a beautiful grassy green. This one is very similar to the Apple Bob in the Spooked palette, but the Apple Bob is less like metallic than this one. But still beautiful, and I love the matte selection here. It's just so beautiful. The shade Moss, I love this shade. It's so pretty. And I also have to mention this multi-chrome called Double-Sided. Again, it's very similar to the one in the Serpent palette. It's like a similar type of multi-chrome that has like white based and then goes yellow, orange, and a little bit of green as well. So this one is beautiful too, and I love this. When I don't really have a specific palette I want to use and I know I need to use green that day, this is what I go for. Sometimes I even use the pinks, but mainly I bought this palette for the greens, and I love it. It's just the ultimate green palette. I used to also have the Ace Beauté Tropical Vibes palette. That one was all just green shades and a couple like more like brownie shades, but mostly greens. That one I quite liked, but it was very matte, heavy, and since I have this palette and all the other ones, I didn't really need that one particularly, so I got rid of that one. But yeah, this is my ranking. Let me know if you have any of these palettes and what do you think about them. Let me know if you have any other green palettes, or like what are your favorite greens in your collection. I definitely want to do this video with other colors as well. It's just I wanted to start with greens because I have the most of them currently. But yeah, definitely let me know if you like this style of video and what's your favorite green in your collection, or what's your favorite color for makeup. That would also be nice to know. And yeah, thank you for watching this video, and I will see you soon, hopefully. Have a great day. Bye.